Hi everyone, my name is Jamie Tian from Los Angeles and I'm your A-List National Chair. Today I'm super excited to be having a Top Producers Mastermind webinar, and it's presented by Bank of America. So I really want to thank Bank of America for sponsoring the A-List. And I think we'll just get started. I'm excited to be chatting with three of our top producers from around the country. We have Herman Chan from San Francisco Bay Area. He is ranked in the top 0.05% in Real Trends. He's the #1 agent at Golden Gate Sotheby's. We have Tim, her top producer from the Atlanta Metro. He's a managing broker for a boutique brokerage called Point Honors and Associates, and is our incoming 2022 AREAA National President. And then we have Amy Duong Kim. She is our 2020 Greater Chicago AREAA President and is the founding member of Chicago Compass, and she's also a top 1% producer at Real Trends. So I'd like for each of you to go around first and tell me a little bit more about yourself. Tell me about what your business was like before coronavirus and what it's like now. Let's start with Herman.
Hi guys, I miss you guys so much. I haven't seen everyone in so long. Hi. Well, you asked me two questions. First thing is like a little bit about myself and then about the market. So a little bit about myself. Bay Area, born and raised, went to UC Berkeley. I've been selling real estate for about, oh, for heaven's sakes, like 20 years since 2000 when I graduated. So I'm heading on to middle age era right now. And yeah, this would be my third, like if we go into a downturn, this would be my third one. The first one being .bomb when I graduated, and then GFC, Great Financial Crisis in '08. And so, you know, knock on wood, we're not heading into something, we probably are, but I mean, yeah, this is my third round to rodeo. So when you ask me how are things before and after, I mean, it's really just kind of cyclical like the other two times before. It's like before it was anything's possible, you know, just everything's honky-dory and everyone's feverish and fever-pitched and trying to get into properties, and you could put an ashtray on the market and it would just sell like within 2 days, and now we have to work. So yeah, that's it in a nutshell.
All right, how about you, Tim?
Hi guys, Tim Herman from the Atlanta market. I have been fortunate to be in real estate right after college, like Herman. I've been doing this for about 13 years now. So Herman, I'm right there with you. You know, I kind of agree with Herman. You know, I've survived. We survived 2007, 2008. That was fun. The Atlanta market's a little unique because we are such a big geographical area. But you know, it still has the very similar issues. You know, low inventory, multiple offers. You know, kind of the same thing. It was kind of, again, we're an interesting market because we do have a big segmented markets as well. Certain areas, lower price points, luxury markets, kind of the mix. But now it is a little different. You know, we're not shut down like the other markets, so it's still a little. I know we'll talk about it in a little bit, but. Before COVID-19, it was we were ready for the spring market. Let's just say that.
Thank you. And how about you, Amy?
Hi, I'm Amy Duong Kim from Chicago. So I have been doing this back since 2005. Wasn't too motivated actually to be a realtor. So actually, I really became a top producer at 2007, 2008 when a lot of people were exiting the market. It gave me opportunity to really focus and I think stand out. So, you know, and that's where I kind of realized, you know, I can do something with this career. Before that, I was an actuary. So it's definitely, it just reminds me of the fact of like having to work hard, like Herman had said. So before COVID, yeah, I think it was just the same across the board. Chicago is always going to be a little bit slower or not see as aggressive multiple offer situations, but we were still going into a very hot market. We were planning on having at least 20 listings going into the spring market. We're still going to have these listings, but you know, we're timetabling them to the later of the year. So, or doing a lot of pocket. We were always doing a lot of pocket in Chicago. I know in other markets don't do pocket market as much, but usually we do 30 to 40% of our deals off market. So, so now we're just focused on doing that even more now than we were before.
Got it. So tell me more about how you've been coping and with business now that all of this stay-at-home started. I know for myself in California, it's also very different per city. So in the city of LA, in California at least, the city of LA has the strictest guidelines. And in the city of LA right now, we're not allowed to do any showings at all if the seller is still residing in the home, virtual only. If the home is vacant, then we can do in-person showings now if we get a lot of disclosures signed. And also there's a lot of guidelines of only one agent in the home at once, up to 2 people inside the home at once, but they must be from the same family group. They must live together already. So if they don't live together already, they can't go into the house at the same time. They need to go in the house separately. And of course, everyone needs to wear masks and gloves and shoe covers and everything. But that's in the city of LA. And for me, it's interesting because city of Beverly Hills, city of West Hollywood, Santa Monica, Culver City, these are all different cities and they all have different guidelines. So we have to be really careful for each city. But for me personally, I've noticed, obviously, we're still doing a small amount of business, but it's definitely a fraction of the business that we were doing before in March. A few people are still listing and we're still seeing homes selling, and the really nice homes that are listed at correct prices and are very attractive are still getting multiple offers and selling, especially if they're vacant and able to be viewed. So I kind of want to hear about what's happening for you guys. It's interesting to hear, especially because San Francisco is the first place to lock down. And for you guys in the Midwest, happened much later. And I kind of want to hear the difference and what kind of stage in the process you guys are at now. So I'll start with Herman.
Right, so you're right. We started first with the lockdown, and culturally, it was a big adjustment because first of all, no one was ready for this at all, just on all professionally, medically, whatever. And so for the Bay Area to take that move, it was like we were going against the grain of everyone else in the country, which is normal up here, but it was difficult because I didn't feel that we had the backing of the media, of other states. And so when we were telling our clients, no, you can't go in, there's these reasons for it, there's a lot of pushback. And I just think that as realtors, we were put in this weird position of having to be advocates and medical experts and cleaning experts and things that we're not used to doing. And so so there was quite a bit of a hysteria for the first couple of weeks and confusion. That's frankly died down. Now there's protocol in place, exactly what you talked about, Jamie. So we have the same thing. We have vacant homes can be shown, but with very strict protocols, waivers signed, because no one wants to be sued for infecting someone with COVID, right, or bring it in. And but occupied homes are strictly still no open homes, no brokers tours. There was a story here where someone did a FaceTime live situation. It was supposed to be a virtual open house, but I think he mentioned something about someone coming to visit or stop on by, and the police showed up. Yes. So we take things very seriously here, and so I think now that everyone has kind of gotten the word out, and people understand that there are certain rules in place for everyone's safety. I feel like business now is going back to, I wouldn't say normal, but now I think people are not in a state of hysteria and fear. They're okay, I like this house, I'm qualified, what are my next plans? And now as realtors, you can either wait if you're very, very skittish about COVID, or there's certain ways to get you in. And the way we deal with sellers too is you can either wait and take it off the market after SFP is lifted, or you exit and you get into a hotel or live at your second home or somewhere so that the place can be shown vacant. So at least now we have ways to offer the clients. Before it was just a wild mess.
Yeah, I agree. What about you guys, Amy and Tim? I'm not sure. I think Chicago was probably next to have the stay-at-home order. Am I correct?
Yeah, so yeah, I remember it was, so I don't know, everyone after all of this would come to Chicago for St. Patrick's Day because they dye the river green and it's amazing and it's so fun. That was when it was shelter in place. They canceled that. And that weekend, I feverishly got everyone who I knew would be homeless, all our clients, ready to write offers. We wrote offers that weekend. We wrote, I think, 5 offers just to get them into something because we didn't know how strict the shelter in place would be. We don't have the rules that you have in LA, which is crazy to me. So we can show right now. We have the ability to show. They don't have rules of how many people, but I would say it's the discretion of the seller. Of course, if it's vacant, we'll show. But when they are living there, the only restriction we have is that if it is rented, because we have a very strong tenant ordinance in Chicago, the strongest in the nation. If it is occupied, rented, tenant occupied, we cannot show it. But if it's a seller occupied unit, it's discretion of that seller if they want to show it or not. And the good news out of all of this, I suppose, is if a buyer does really want to go out, they are pretty ready to write an offer. And I'm sure that we're all seeing that too. So I think the sellers are aware of that. And we are really, and I agree with Herman that, I think in the beginning, people who weren't doing virtual tours before, now they know about it, but we already had this collateral, we already had that marketing. So it was really easy to transfer that really quickly to the people who are interested and doing like Facebook open houses and things like that. So, but I agree that there was like maybe 2 weeks of not knowing what to do. And then title companies, movers, listing, buying agents, we all figured it out. And now, again, not back to normal, but at least we can keep the ball rolling.
Atlanta was a little unique because our shelter in place was a little bit more piecemealed. It wasn't provided all at once. So we had the mayor of Atlanta doing the shelter in place, and then we had pockets, the surrounding cities doing it, and then the county started doing it, and then the governor finally came out and issued a shelter in place. But this has all been piecemeal together. Every single city has its own different shelter in place. What was kind of I guess unified in thought was that real estate was deemed essential from the very beginning. That was something that the Realtors community actually had a lot of questions for and lobbied very hard to the mayor's office and everything for clarification, because although a shelter in place was issued, there was so many exceptions. People were still allowed to go to the parks. They were still allowed to do a lot of different activities. So it wasn't restricted. I think that COVID-19, especially in Atlanta, where Georgia has been hit very heavily, it's been one of the top states that has a record number of COVID-19. We had one of the late reactions in the nation, to be honest. That being said, real estate has been, it's a catch-22. And me being a broker, I do, there's about 20 agents in our firm. I was the first, probably one of the first brokers to ask for a COVID-19 disclosure. I was asking everyone, hey, what is everyone doing for contracts? So we were adding that into a special steps, making sure. So I sent that out to our, our company team. Please make sure to put in COVID-19 stipulations, because, I have, we have an office here with the closing attorney, because we're an attorney state, and we were hearing stories left and right of not being able to close, or title companies saying, hey, if you can't record deeds, if district courts are shut down, you're going to have a lot of these issues, and we have to have all these different things in place. So it was very nice to have a closing attorney kind of very close by to kind of give us a little bit of the legal guidance, to kind of be a little bit more reactionary, so we could be a little bit more proactive about all of our approach. I didn't force any of our agents. I said, look, your health is first. Go show on your own, making sure that you're okay. You don't have to do anything, right? Everyone is a 1099 employee. You're not employees. So I can't force you to go and do real estate. But if you want to, here's your letter. So I have essential worker letters that were issued out to all of our agents. We had COVID-19 stipulations out. It's been an interesting part. Helen and I, she's my partner to team leader here at our firm, and we have been carefully monitoring all the sales in our market as well. So we kind of do a daily Facebook little, hey, how many things are going on the market, how many things are closing. And it was interesting to see in the very beginning of COVID-19 when we did have the shelter in place, because there was only reporting maybe 5 or 6 closings ever. But I do feel like that was a little bit of a reporting delay, because that Friday, all of a sudden we had like 800 closings, which is probably not true, right? 4 closings and 800. So it's probably more a little bit, it was just a reporting delay. We are seeing people really abiding by these shelter in place, however, here. The flip side is, we are definitely not advocating for open houses. We are saying, if you want to do one, do a virtual one. So we've been doing, but a lot of these good agents and top agents, we've been doing this forever. It's not nothing new to have a website dedicated for our properties. It's not new to have virtual tours, or it's not new to have videos and Matterports and 3Ds. So I think a lot of the agents have now been catching up to what a lot of these top agents have been doing, or what people have been doing already to kind of set us apart. So I think that's kind of the interesting part, to kind of see how the market is shifting. And I'll say that, Herman and all these people here, I look at everyone's Facebooks and Instagram stories, and I kind of, we incorporate them. We take into a lot of this stuff that we've done, and Kenny, Kenny Trong over there in Oakland, oh my goodness, like, he has a trove of data that he's willing to share. And since, it's not like we compete in the same market, so we're able to adapt a lot of the resources that he's done, or the things that he's done, and kind of incorporating in Atlanta too. So it is a good thing. I don't think it's a bad thing. It is a good thing, taking time and energy to make sure that you're kind of making sure you're doing what you want to do.
Yeah, definitely. So someone in the chat asked about the disclosure. So you kind of mentioned that you're in an attorney state, so you kind of made your own disclosure to add on to your listings and contracts, which is great. In California, we do have the California Association of Realtors. We have a PEAD, so it's a property entry and advisory addendum. And everyone who enters the property has to sign it, including agents, inspectors, buyers, sellers. And they have to say that they haven't been sick or shown any symptoms, or been around anyone who has shown symptoms recently. So that's what we've been using here. And we also have a listing addendum that when we list a property, we make sure that the seller, whether or not they're living there, has also stated that they're not sick or have been in contact with anyone sick, and is allowing us to enter the property for a very specific reason, showings, inspections, and so on, so that we have our, ourselves and everyone covered in terms of that. And then let's see, we had another question from the panelists. They want to know, not from the panelists, from the audience. They want to know, how are you guys handling conversations with your sellers right now and buyers right now when they ask you, do you think it's a good time to list my home now, or should I wait till after? And what do you say when you ask them, later when we open back up, should we list it now and try to sell it now? What should we do? I'll start with you, Herman.
Well, right now I'm not having those conversations. My past 3 weeks have really been damage control, salvaging deals, saving transactions. I mean, I haven't even gotten to the point of like procuring or placing the seeds for future business, but I see that we're at an inflection point, and I am getting some pings from sellers asking me this. It really comes down to what their personal and financial situation is. Like, if they're very dire, I would just list it, because you have no idea how long the SIP is going to last. They keep pushing it further and further back, and God knows what's going to happen. And at the same time, let's just say it does lift, and then, there's going to be an influx of every seller who's been waiting for the past 2 or 3 or 4 months. So there's that risk. But, at the same time, if you're sitting pretty and you don't have to, and you can afford to wait to maybe for the fall market, do that. It's just kind of, it's a very case-by-case basis, honestly. And I feel very uncomfortable even advising any client too much, because especially during the whole eye of the storm 2 weeks ago, like, any advice you gave or I gave, within 3 days, it was different. I just look like an idiot, and so I just feel like it's really more about just understanding that I'm there for them if they need, holding their hands. But really, it's for me to project anything, I'm putting myself in a bad position as well, and I don't want to lead them down the wrong path. If I told someone a month ago, yes, SIP's lifted May 3rd, let's debut everything lined up, and now it's being pushed back further. I mean, they've made their entire life movements, moving out, renting somewhere else to live, and then for what? I mean, I'm feeling a little reticent about offering too much hard advice. So what are you guys going through?
Yeah, I think I feel the same way too, is that, and obviously we don't want to be, we can't predict the future, and we don't know. So it's kind of like people keep asking us the same questions, but we can't really answer them. We can only tell them the pros and cons. So obviously, listing right now, there's not a lot of new listings. So maybe you will have the opportunity to stand out with your virtual tours. People are home. Cons, obviously, like you said, I mean, cons are obviously that people aren't going out and there's a lot less buyers. So, I mean, but who knows, waiting, and waiting could mean waiting till right after the SIP is lifted, or like you said, maybe until fall or later in the year when things get a little bit back to normal. So it really depends on each person's situation. But I guess for Amy and Tim, are you still seeing sellers mostly still listing, or are they holding off?
We're listing some things. It just first it's the comfort of that buyer or seller. So like if the buyer is comfortable with going out and we leave that decision up to them, I think that they have a really great opportunity to purchase something at a possibly lower price, or with at least without competition of other buyers. So and then we always take the necessary precautions, like we don't drive together, we wear masks and gloves, and stay far apart when showing. A lot of the high-rise buildings in Chicago, they only allow 2 people in the elevator, things like that. So, but for sellers, of course, if it's vacant, we'll put it up. But if the seller is occupying the place, I know, and Jamie and I have talked about this before, is that we really utilize the pocket market. We have a PLN database in the MLS, and we use TAN often to put our listings just out there to the top 10% or anyone looking on the PLN. And if we get a bite, then we'll send over the virtual tour to them, which we've already done, or videos, and we'll do FaceTime. And then we'll leave it up to the seller to decide if they want to proceed with any type of showing or not. So we have been successful with some of our listings doing it that way. But again, it's not like a huge amount, so I think it's more like, what does the seller feel comfortable with? And I completely agree with Herman in the sense, like, we don't know how long this is going to be. So you just have to find, if you can do it, great. If you can't, then, this is not the right time to sell. And we'll have to touch base on it constantly. I feel like there is, I think everybody is understanding that there is just so much unknown.
Yeah, in Atlanta, because we didn't have a shelter in place, again, real estate was exempted. What we saw, and this is something that happened to our firm, all of our clients that had a little bit more flexibility in time or with funds, or some of our luxury clients, they're definitely holding off, or they've asked to hold, or they're just waiting. They're not in a dire need to sell or to buy. So they've either terminated, or they're just saying, hey, we're gonna buy, we just don't wanna buy right now. So we're seeing that, but then in our average price points, our first-time home buyers, or anything that is a little bit of a step up, or average price points, I mean, all of our listings that we had on, that we listed, they were all under contract with multiple offers within a week. So again, I think it is a little bit of a price point issue as well, because inventory has always been low. So this just makes competition even more fierce for some of our, our medium price listings. But on the flip side, our higher end listings have definitely taken a little bit of a toll, a little bit of a wait and see kind of approach. And it is a case by case. When we talk to sellers, we're like, hey, you're gonna have to let people in the door. Are you okay with that? And so it is a lot of conversations. And then Herman, you're right. I mean, I used to tell some of my sellers, hey, when this all dies down or blows over, hey, we'll be right there. And then of course it gets delayed and delayed and delayed. So I stopped talking about that too. I mean, I'm very cautious about, what we say. And again, because of the piecemeal activity, and there are agents here that are very upset that we are still showing houses. I mean, people have, because they've been directly affected by COVID-19. So we're very careful about how we approach it too, because, you don't want to upset your fellow realtors who's been advocating for different things. But on the flip side, we understand that you have to make a living too, so.
Do you feel that all the buyers feel there's all these amazing deals out there, and I think to a certain degree, that, as everyone has said on the panel, that's certainly true, but I feel like it's not as deep a discount as they thought, because I think they're enveloped in this mass media consumption all day long. Is Corona, and they think they're going to come in, but the odd thing is all these sellers have taken their listings off the market, so inventory was tight to begin with, and now all of a sudden it's even tighter. So then the people who are left having to buy, who are very dire in terms of like, if they're getting, I don't know, they have to move for a certain reason. I mean, those people are ramping it up. So it's almost in some ways like a wash. I feel like it's just not that, I mean, like, I just got into contract with some, it was listed for 9 something. We offered $1,050,000 for it, went over asking. And then the seller countered us and we met somewhere in the middle, $1,075,000. But everyone was very surprised but there's just no inventory because the people, I don't know, are you seeing that too? Like, it's just, it made it made the demand even higher for certain cases.
Yeah, it is. I've kind of seen that in LA too, because like, yeah, the buyer pool is smaller, but also the listing pool is smaller too. And whoever is selling or buying right now, they're really serious, right? They really need to buy or sell. So we're seeing like multiple offers. Obviously, the high end is slow right now, but the more, normal price point for LA, we're seeing multiple offers and things going still pretty quickly as long as they're priced well. So, I mean, it's kind of a case by case basis too. It's depends on the listing. If it's a really attractive, nice listing, it's going to still sell quickly. But obviously if you're pricing it wrong or for the condition or something like that, then it's going to sit. So I want to go to the next topic. Herman, you mentioned that you've just been spending all your time putting out fires. Tell me more about that. What kind of issues have you had in escrow, and what have you been able to do to kind of resolve it? I personally did have one escrow that I lost that I wasn't able to save. The buyer was getting a non-QM loan, and as we've all probably heard now, the non-QM loan market is basically gone, and she wasn't able to get a loan, and she wasn't able to close, and her deposit is still tied up. And obviously the seller won't release it. She won't release it. We're kind of just in limbo right now. So that's what I've dealt with. What have you guys personally experienced?
We had 2 deals die because their down payment was in the stock market. So they had lost, 40, 60, whatever percentage, just vanished overnight. So they did not have that wealth to be using towards their home. So, and then it just led to like being nervous and skittish. I'm sure they could have figured out how to get the money if they had to, but I think just like that depletion in their portfolio was a huge blow to them, and especially with first-time home buyers who have not dealt with 2008 crisis or 9/11. This is their first adult situation, so I think it's difficult for them to understand that we will get out of this eventually. It's just not happening right now.
Yeah. So did they have contingencies to get their deposit back when they?
Yeah, so I'm sure this is the same in Atlanta. I know it doesn't happen in San Francisco and in California because you guys are the lucky ones. But in our contracts, we have mortgage contingencies, and we have mortgage contingencies that are up till like a week before closing. So if they're not able to get their financing, they could pull out of the deal. So it is very buyer advantageous for in Illinois, but we cannot be secure in a closing until closing. Even yesterday, we were closing in $1 million condo, which in Chicago is a lot, because our average price point is like $400,000, which is still good, but $1 million is luxury. So the large lender, I'm not going to say their name, but the large lender had thought that the buyer was furloughed. So he was doing employment verification the night before, and even still the morning of the closing. So I think lenders, I think just everybody we're just in this new frontier.
Well, we in California do have contingencies. The loan contingency usually does last until about a week before closing too. But in my case, we were literally actually past the closing date. The closing had ended delayed a day or two. So by then, obviously, loan docs had been signed, everything was approved, and we had removed our loan contingency. At that point, once you sign loan docs, it's customary to remove your loan contingency. So we did. And then on the day that it funded, the wire actually went out for the funding, and then they pulled the wire back. And it just happened that day. That was the day that all the non-QM funding stopped. It was just really unlucky because we were supposed to close the day before, and we would have already closed. So now, obviously everyone's upset. But what about you, Herman? What have you experienced different types of problems?
Well, here in the Bay Area, historically, it is not contingent. So, if a winning bid is no contingencies. And that's the way it's been for the past 5 to 7 years. So I was really in a pickle because all the escrows that I got in a contract prior to SIP and the whole COVID mess, we got it in because non-contingent, and all of a sudden the world is crumbling, stock market's dropping. I mean, those were the fires I were putting out, and it was a lot of emotional fires. Like, where can you get to money else? Where can you get money from mommy and daddy? Can you deplete your 401k? Can you do a private loan? Can you do, all these things to try to save the deal, because honestly, the deposits are kind of stuck. At that point, there was no PE, AD, COVID addendums. It was all, we were just flying by the seat of our pants. And also the lenders, one lender I won't mention right now, but basically, like, they first said, no, we're not doing any appraisals. Legal says no. And then they changed their mind. And then all of a sudden the AMC changed their mind. And then the AMC later changed their mind. And then the appraiser who was assigned said originally she was okay with it. And then she changed her mind. I mean, it was literally like 2 weeks just to even get someone in there, which is a very long time up here. And eventually I just told them, I said, look, I don't care who you send out here, but I'm sitting here from 11:30 until midnight. Whoever you send out here, I'm here. And if they don't want to go inside, that's fine. We can do a drive-by. But it was like, there was no rules. It was like the Wild Wild West. Things have calmed down a little bit now, but like it was when you're asking about putting out fires, it's all these little tiny things to get the transaction to the next chapter. They're not like major deal breakers per se. Like, I've only had one deal canceled so far, and that was because the buyer was first-time buyer, and he worked in tech, and there's been a lot of tech layoffs here, and so that was his excuse. This is another thing too, is like I don't really think that he was always difficult to begin with, and I think it was just a nice, convenient excuse to kind of flop off. I was on the listing side, not the buyer side. So I just recently read something this morning about how some people are actually calling buyers bluffs. Because I think during the hysteria, if you just said anything COVID, like, oh yeah, of course, yes, yes, be safe, be just you're the, family first, health first. But now that people are kind of like abusing it a little bit, I heard that there was like some lawsuit happening, or someone's filing some type of like calling people's bluff, because how do you prove it? How can you show me evidence? It's not, I think now we're back to like a little more critical eye about stuff like that. And so I'm not sure what's happening right now. I think we're in this weird inflection point. What's happening with you, Tim?
I mean, I think all of us have some crazy stories. We'll all look back and be like, oh, just like how we talk about 2008, 2007, 2008, 2009. So we all have these crazy stories that, but at the end of the day, our job, as real estate agents, as realtors, and as AREAA members, our job is to get the job done and represent our clients. And I think that, we've had definitely as a broker, I've never had to make so many earnest money decisions, because people have definitely said, I'm either willing to walk away, or how do I protect my earnest money, or what do I need to do, right? So it has been an interesting kind of field, especially, what can you ask, what can you not ask? Herman, you're right. How far can you ask, and are you diagnosed? What can you ask, right, without getting into legal trouble?
Right.
So again, I think that people in the beginning were definitely abusing the financing contingency, of course, because they're saying, hey, I've been furloughed, I lost a job, and all that, because that is a legal way out in our Georgia contracts. Losing unemployment or losing a job is a way out of the contract. Now, the timing of it is very particular, because some people have literally terminated, the last day of due diligence, the last day of the financing contingency, which kind of gives you a little bit of like, what's really going on? So, all of us will have some crazy stories. We all have to figure out how to work around it. Georgia had a crazy one where, again, with the courts being shut down, title companies are saying, if you can't record the deeds, you can't close. So how do we protect that? And, one of our preferred closing attorney that we try to use has been using e-recordings since the day it started. So we've had to shift all of our closings. We were already doing it anyway, but a lot of agents were shifting their closing attorneys at the last minute, which may reset the timeline for title issues and, checking title and all that other stuff. So it's just keeping up and making sure that you're aware of what's going on with your market. I think that's the kind of the best advice that I can probably, all of us on this panel can kind of give all of our agents that are watching around.
Yeah, definitely. In the chat, the audience is talking about the new NAR rule about pocket listings. So I believe that starts on May 1st and people are discussing about it. What do you guys know about that? And I guess I'll go to you first, Amy, since you mentioned that you do a lot of your deals via pocket listing. How is that going to affect you, you think, and how will you deal with it?
I think that we were doing from what I read last, and now I have to check everything, but from what I read last is that we were doing everything already to protect being able to do pockets still. You do have to fill out a PLN addendum with the exclusive listing agreement, which we were already doing for all our listing. Even if we weren't going to pocket, we were doing that regardless. So, and then that was probably the biggest thing. So if one of our houses, for example, they wanted a sign up, you have to have it on at least on the very least on the PLN. I think that's a rule all over the nation. But if it's, let's say, a high rise, we can do PLN. Also, for what's nice about our association right now is if you do temp off market, that does not accumulate market time, and you can do a search that way. So you could look at listings that will not show, and that can be under temp. So those are two options that you can do.
Herman and Tim, do you have any insight?
Our MLS doesn't allow pocket listings. It's never been allowed anyway. So we've always had, I know that agents have, we do have a, coming soon capability, which is very new to kind of counteract the pocket listings. People are still very confused on what coming soon really means in our MLS. So, again, pocket listings, I know it happens. I know it works. I know people do it, but as a broker standpoint, we don't allow it. So because we don't allow it from our standpoint, I don't do it. We do put it on the MLS.
Our MLS also recently implemented a coming soon feature. And I think the new rule is that we have to input into the MLS within 1 day of getting the listing agreement signed, or 1 day of the listing agreement starting, unless the owner says that we don't want them to. However, we can't advertise it in print or social media or anything like that. If we do that, then we have to advertise it on the MLS.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, I think that's the new.
We don't have to do that here.
Whether people follow it, how they follow it.
I'm just confused by the whole thing. I'm really confused. I'm just gonna say it. I don't understand. I mean, whether or not you are an advocate, you believe in off MLS, pre-MLS pocket, I just don't think the way it's been crafted has been it's too rigid. The way it reads is like, oh, you sign a listing agreement, but then within a day, well, what about our lead times to prepare marketing, staging, painting, that could be like months, especially depending on the house is.
Well, and that's what I put on my PLN. I say whenever staging, photography, videography, all is completed.
Yeah,
so
that's not in the interest of the client or the seller, because if they're asking us to do that and we're not ready, and the second it hits MLS, it syndicates to thousands of sites, and if you don't have the right pictures, it's just like the agent who puts it on the MLS now and does the pictures maybe 2 weeks later. Well, that window of opportunity is within that first 24 hours. After that, you're at the bottom of the pile now. It's I don't understand. I understand the spirit of what I think they're trying to negate, but I don't think the way it rolled out is very clearly thought out. But what do I know?
I think it also just depends on the market as well. So again, Chicago's super conservative, and this is just another way, prior to coronavirus, it was another way to try to create some buzz for listings, just because we don't have the opportunity where we have a super low of inventory like other markets have.
Yeah, I agree. So what are you guys doing for marketing now? Have you done anything to change your marketing? Have you done anything to ramp up your marketing? And what are you doing during the time, during the stay-at-home time? Herman?
Why am I always first, girl?
Your mama Herman, and Herman, you.
Plus you've had more stay-at-home time than all of us, so. You have the most experience.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm the old auntie. Okay, I got that. Well, historically, I just didn't do very much marketing to begin with. I would say 98% of my business is referral based, yada, yada, yada. I know I was on another mastermind. Kenny, I think, is online here somewhere. So, hi, Kenny. There was all these people who were ramping up their marketing and putting thousands of dollars into Zillow and Yelp and all these things. And I never was that agent to begin with. And right now, I don't even feel that that's where I would want to go. I just think right now I'm going to use this time to rebrand myself, to polish up my social media, to just clean up all my mailing lists. I really want to just use this time to kind of become more lean. And when I emerge, I just want to be more like polished. I mean, that's all I really want to do. And I'm not in the mindset of trying to there's this collective heaviness on my shoulders through this whole thing. And for me to even try to get into the right point of view to get more business and plant more seeds, I'm not there mentally yet. So it's a little difficult for me to get into that space. But I don't know, maybe I'm weak.
No, everyone else is, a lot of people are talking about, we're ramping up our marketing, we're doing this, we're doing that. But everyone needs to know that this is a tough time that everyone's going through. And it's okay if you just want to, relax and work on yourself and make sure that your own mental state is okay, because that's the most important thing too. Yeah. But I'm sure that you're on your phone and on your email all day talking to your clients and your friends and everyone. And that's what I've been trying to do too, is we've stopped our print mailers because the city has deemed bulk mail as non-essential. So we're not doing and things like that anymore. But I am just trying to stay in touch with everyone, and also not only my clients, obviously staying in touch with your current clients, your upcoming listings, your buyers, and keeping them appraised of what's going on every single day, because it keeps changing, is important. But I'm also just been spending a lot of my time reaching out to people that I've kind of lost touch with. Honestly, whether that ends up as an old friend becoming a friend again, or that becomes a client in the future or a referral in the future, who knows? But I think it's kind of helping my mental state too, just talking to people and catching up with people. So that's kind of something that my boss has encouraged all of us to do, that we can do at home easily, is just check in with all your friends, your neighbors, your family, people that you lost touch with, your high school friends, your college friends. Make sure they're okay. If they need help, maybe you can help them. And if not, maybe you can just reconnect again. What about you, Amy and Tim? Have you guys had any changes in your marketing, or are you just kind of doing the same thing as before?
We revamped our listing presentation completely. We actually added a buyer's book too. So I'm taking this time as it would be for me in the winter, because as you guys all know, we get 20 inches of snow and nobody wants to go through a blizzard to go look at houses. So I'm kind of picking up to where we left off in our winter to finish any projects we kind of love to be. So I do all my marketing in the winter for the whole year. So I never look at my listing presentation again. I never look at my buyer's book again. And then we do it for the whole year. So we always wanted a buyer's book, but we never worked on it because I was always focused on the listing presentation. So we finalized a buyer's book right now. I'm so happy about it. And then I think also creating efficiencies. So, we sell about 70 to 100 units a year. And that's great, right? But I want to do it where I'm not stressed out all the time. Let's put some systems in place where I'm not freaking out or thinking, or honestly, it's more that I don't really stress out about anything, but I forget a lot. So, I don't want anything to fall through the cracks, So I think trying to implement systems where that happens. We have an awesome transaction coordinator. I know she's listening right now, so love you. And then, my husband's really great too. I work with my husband. So we just are trying to brainstorm so we are prepared, not just for this coming year, but just for our lives or our career, going forward, because we're going to be doing this. Hopefully won't be doing it past 60, but if we are, we have all these systems that we're putting in place right now that will be helpful till then.
Herman, you're not going to be 60 anytime soon, right?
Oh, I will live forever.
I think I'm on a little bit of, so I hate to say that I've stopped marketing. It's actually, we've been able to, so before, I think we were so busy trying to sell real estate and me managing a firm, then we love conferences, and I do miss all my REA family, but we have a lot of traveling that we do for personal, for work, and we're always just, we see all this technology and we're throwing all this technology, and we're, everyone wants it to try us to do the newest gadgets and gizmo. But this is where I'm going to give Kenny props again, because Kenny really, if you follow Kenny's Instagram, he does talk about all the systems that he uses, and it works, right? So, it's given me an opportunity to really interview a lot of these companies, like all these CRMs. Like, instead of just going with, one that somebody recommended, now I can actually be like, oh, I saw you at Inman. Oh, I saw you at AREAA. Show me your product. So I've interviewed all of them, which probably before in the day, I probably didn't have time to do all of them. I just picked one and ran with it. So, we signed on with one. And then, we're actually been able to, I've been able to actually interact more with all these vendors. And really, these vendors still want our business. And of course, they're probably hit just as much as we are by people pulling out. So we've been able to negotiate these great deals with all these marketing people, or all these different technologies getting, during the COVID-19, months, we get a free trial. We test them out. We make sure that it works. It works for us. If it doesn't, we immediately cut. So I've cut one yesterday. So it's really nice just to kind of be able to sit back. And yes, I am spending more money from a marketing standpoint, from a firm standpoint, not so much marketing in terms of, Tim Her or we're the greatest. It's more of, hey, look, we're here, we're there, our messaging has changed. But really, Amy, you nailed it in the head, we are so busy and we don't want to go insane. And how do we make our lives easier and let's utilize the time now. This is, it is good time to, if you don't like your CRM, you may want to look into it. Stop with you don't have to send out these automated Facebook posts that, it's not really relevant anymore. You want to stop that too, so you're not paying, shouldn't have to pay for all of that when you really could develop your content yourself too. So I think that's kind of where we're shifting a lot of our marketing dollars. Is just really.
My kids love your Santa letters.
We're still surviving after. Yeah, there you go. Stuff like that, right? So that's kind of where we're kind of shifting a little bit our focus to.
Awesome. I want to open up to questions from the audience. You can type it in the Q&A section or in the chat, and we'll open up to that. One person asked, are we worried about lawsuits concerning showings and this crisis? Can you guys hear me? Is my sound low?
It was a little low earlier, but I think it's okay now.
Yeah, have you guys had any talk about that among your brokerages in terms of liability and possible litigation in the future?
That is a big issue. So as a broker, it is a very big concern. That's one of the reasons why we have implemented saying, hey, look, you don't have to show properties. You don't have to go out and do, it is your choice. It is your clients, in a sense, it's the brokerages, but you know what I'm trying to say. So, we are very careful on that. And of course, from buyers and seller standpoints, we do have to have a little bit more of an in-depth conversation. I've seen a lot of forms, been thrown out with, with sellers and buyers, but at the end of the day, my 2 calls I made when all this was happening was legal counsel. Is all of our forms and, stipulations, everything, is that correct? Is that good? Is our essential letter worker, we send out letters for all of our agents so that they can travel, so that they get arrested or just pulled over, or whatever, they have the letters. And I called my insurance company and be like, hey, by the way, our E&O and our, now that everyone's going virtual, we added a cyber policy for all of our agents. So from a broker standpoint, yeah, we've definitely been, we definitely do have to be cautious about lawsuits and, what ifs, and just making sure that all of our insurances are in order, is paid to date. That's the one thing I will not negotiate. Just make sure to pay those bills.
So another question from the audience, what do you recommend newer agents who don't have a large client referral base focus on right now? So I think what I said recently just now still applies. Still, even though you don't have a client base, your sphere of influence and everyone your friends, your family, coworkers from your last job, whoever they're all possible clients. So just reach out, reach out to them. Think about it as like a at-home networking event where you have to text 100 people each day or something like that. Give yourself a goal. Just say hi, hey, how are you doing? How's your family? I hope you're staying healthy and safe. And let me know if there's anything I can do for you. I can drop things off if you need them or something like that. Just reach out to as many people as possible. Like I said, my broker challenged everyone at my company to do that the other day. And I texted probably 100 people and I was up until midnight responding to everyone, and I do have a lot of people that are thinking about buying when this all, the stay in place order is lifted. And so, yeah, how about you guys? Any advice for new agents?
Well, there's only one of several ways you can get started in real estate. As a new agent, you either join a team, you get to touch the business immediately, but the drawback is that you're going to be kind of niched into a certain one side of the business, but at least you're in the business. That's one way. Another way is maybe you partner with someone who needs you more than you need them. Like if you're a younger agent, you're tech savvy, talk to some older lady, guy, well, I'm not whatever, just who's maybe has a big Rolodex and is not very tech savvy, and just that's a great way, because that's how I started, honestly. And then the third way is work for a company that feeds you leads. There are online companies do that, but the drawback is you're giving them almost your entire commission, because that's the hardest part of the business, is procuring leads. And then the fourth way is just the way that everyone kind of teaches you to do, is door knocking, cold calling, office hours, and you're basically the spider web mode. You spin your spider. You hope that some fly's gonna come into your net somehow, some way, right? The drawback of that is it takes time, and you're waiting and waiting. Hope is not a strategy. You're just hoping for someone to come into your net. So I mean, those are pretty much the four ways that a new agent kind of gets into the business. And maybe you can do a hybrid of all four somehow. So yeah.
I've stopped asking for referrals. I think because everyone knows somebody's mother's, grandmother's, grandparents, father's daughter is a real estate agent that they have to use because of family issues or relationships. The best thing that I say now is, if I completely understand when you can't use me, but refer me to your friends. Refer me to your friends and family. So it really alleviates the direct ask, because they may not use you, but they'll say, oh, Tim Hearn's a great agent, you should use him. And I get a lot more referrals that way. It's it's the touch of a touch. I think that's kind of very important, especially, and for newer agents, be the resource leader. I mean, I see a lot of agents that are actually, if I know that in our market aren't that strong, but I know that they're getting a lot of activity because they're the ones talking about, hey, have you guys looked at the stimulus checks? Have you guys looked at the unemployment? Have you looked at all these different things that are coming out? Have you looked at, if you're looking at buying a house, make sure you don't take the unemployment check. Make sure that you are employed, so they're giving a lot more resources, and I'm seeing a lot of activities and buzz, and people are going to come to the knowledge leader, and then, someone's going to give all who seem to know all the information. So if that's the case, that's kind of what I've been preaching to all my agents, be like, hey, you don't have to know the answer to everything, but if you are there for the client or and you are able to give information to the right people, that's what you should do. And everyone's using TikTok, so somehow I guess you could use TikTok. I see a lot of TikTok stuff going on, and that's something that I don't know how to do yet.
Yes. Somebody said, I miss door knocking. Will anyone ever want to open the door to speak to a realtor again? What do you guys think? I mean, do you think
I never door knocked, and I hate cold calling. I hate doing expires. I don't do any of that stuff at all.
But I mean, certainly there's a lot of agents that do a lot of business from door knocking. I have a lot of friends that door knock every day of the week and they get all their business from that. But what do you guys think? I'm just curious, do you think the market is going to change in the way that we do business? Are people going to shake hands again? Are we going to be able to do open houses with tons of people coming in at the same time? Like, will we be able to get back to that ever again? Or is life as we know it just different now?
I think yes and no. I listened to an interesting podcast about how, people tend to, and even, the fact that I had 3 kids too, you don't really remember all the bad things, but you remember just like a relationship, right? You, hopefully, is that you don't remember all the bad things, but you remember all the good things. So I think this will be just like, hopefully, like, even if it's hopefully not, but let's say it's like the worst case scenario, a 2-year situation. I mean, 10 years from now, I don't think it's going to stop people from going to open houses. But I do think it's going to change in the sense that every agent will have to do virtual tours. Every agent will have to step up their game on online presence. So that will change. But in terms of like physically going out, going to see, you know, down the line, 20 to 40 homes if they have to, that's Chicago. I know it's less in other areas, but I think it will come back. We just don't know when.
Somebody said for the agents in California, have you heard about Phil Ting's legislation, AB 828, to force rental property owners to reduce rent by 25%? Are you afraid of this going national as well? I did hear about that. I just heard about that yesterday. I mean, honestly, I don't know. California, you know, obviously is very liberal and has done a lot of these type of things to help renters and do rent forbearance. And obviously forcing a 25% rent reduction would be, I think, devastating to the real estate market. I don't know. What are your thoughts, Herman? Have you heard anything about that?
I saw it on my Facebook feed yesterday. I don't know too much about it, but in general, of course, I'm opposed to it. Welcome to California. I don't know what else to say. I mean, this is just another event that is a long line of things that have hit us recently in California. You know, the rent caps that have been instigated. It's just very anti-landlord now. It's very pro-tenant. And, you know, I'm all for giving everyone a fair shake, but it's just, I just feel like there's going to be a certain segment of population that is going to be affected, like the mom and pop landlords, owners. I mean, when they draft these things, I think they're targeting like institutional landlords. They think, oh, they've got all this money, they can take the hit. But a lot of people, like people in my family who came here decades and decades ago, I mean, they can't, that's just not, they can't take that 25% hit, you know? And so I'm not really quite sure what is gonna happen. But I mean, I know that a lot of my clients are also divesting their California rental properties for this very reason. So it's just California, yeah.
Just one last question before we wrap up. Somebody asked, do you think that homeowners that take advantage of not paying their mortgage will have their chances of getting a home loan in the future hurt? I don't think so. No.
Wait, what was the question?
I did talk to a lender about the forbearance, just so I knew, and he had said that it is going to show up in the sense that you missed a payment. But in the long run, I don't think it's going to hugely affect purchasing a home. But it is that you will be missing a payment. So, you know, again, like Herman says, like everything is ever changing. So who knows what's going to be tomorrow. But that is what I just got off the phone with him yesterday about that.
I heard that if you just delay it, and you just pay it lump sum, you're fine. But if you try to like spread it out or put it at the end or something of that nature, you are essentially, that is a way for them to ding your credit somehow. I'm not quite sure. Again, it's all like up in the air, but I'm not quite sure if that's responsible for us to say it won't hurt their credit, because that's how you do it.
Yeah, I would just recommend to tell your clients before they agree to anything, make sure that it's not going to be reported on their credit and know exactly what terms they're agreeing to.
Or just call their lender.
Exactly. Exactly.
Evan just said, make sure to talk to your lender.
Ivan, Erica in the chat just said that some lenders will agree to, one, not report credit, and two, waive the late fees. But you must speak to the lender and you must get it in writing from that specific lender. I think every single lender will be different.
Hey, you know, I will add, just to be, just because I'm Tim, her, just let's be nice to each other too. I think that you know, everyone's tensions are, everyone's really heightened, and everyone's kind of like, is this deal going to close, and is this going to happen, and you know, all this other stuff. And I think we kind of lost a little bit. Some of us have, not us as AREAA members, but a lot of agents that we work with. Just let's be nice to each other. I mean, that's all I could say is we're all trying to get to the same goal of getting to closing, and you know, helping our clients with home ownership. I think that, you know, we get so invested with our clients sometimes we forget to be nice to one another. So I can't, I'm a big hugger, so I can't hug everyone, but at least I'll give you everyone a virtual hug.
Totally agree. Thank you so much, Tim, for saying that. On that note, I think I'll wrap up. Thank you guys so much for being here today. It was really, really awesome to hear your insight. I want to say thank you again to Bank of America for the A-List and session today. And then lastly, I want to remind everyone that is a member of AREAA to please sign up for the A-List for the next 2020 A-List. So the applications are now open and the application deadline is May 15th. And you do have to be a member of AREAA for 1 year to apply. So if you aren't a member of AREAA, you should join AREAA now so you can apply next year, because we have a lot of perks of being on the A-List, and we do great webinars like this, and it's a lot of great networking, and we do a lot of referrals. So I definitely encourage everyone to sign up. Go to areaa.org/A-List to apply, and if you have any questions, you can reach out to me or any of the panelists. So thank you guys again so much, and
Thank you. Be
Thank
safe.